Okay, 8th grade, here's our first lesson together. This is analyzing and figuring out the very central idea. I don't know if you remember all the way back to 7th grade in the beginning of the year, but you did something very similar. Trying to figure out what is the picture trying to tell me, what is what I'm reading trying to tell me. You basically want to figure out what is the main idea, what is this picture trying to tell me, what am I supposed to learn? A lot of times the central idea is what are you supposed to learn? What are they communicating? What is the main idea they want you to know? So it says city parks are great places to relax and have fun. So what I'm going to circle is anything that looks relaxing and like people are having fun. So it says you can circle details in the picture, which means you can circle more than one thing, which is great because there's definitely more than one example of people out there enjoying themselves and relaxing and having fun. The first one that I miss because of quarantine is soccer. So we're out here playing soccer. That would be the first one that I would do. I also think that it's really fun that they're like having this picnic. Okay, so I'm going to do that. He's just hanging out talking. And then this person in the back is doing my favorite activity. They are reading, so I'm definitely circling that one. Those will probably be my three. Like, they're just hanging out, having a picnic, and then he's reading, and they're playing at the park. They're all relaxing and having fun. Okay? So, there's the central idea, and they said, what are three ideas? Well, a man is reading the newspaper. That was my favorite one, right? People are having a picnic, and then you have to do the third one. Well, luckily, I circled three things. So, my other supporting detail is about kids are playing a soccer game. Kids are playing a soccer game. All of that supports the idea that you're relaxing and having fun. Kids are playing a soccer game. Alright, so all of that is going to fill out that you understand what supporting details are and how they support the central idea. Okay? So kids are playing a soccer game. Now we're going to read about San Antonio's remarkable history. It's all the history of the city of San Antonio in Texas. So we have to figure out what is the main idea. What do they really want us to know about San Antonio? I mean, you can write a million different things about San Antonio. What does Adam Scott want us to know about San Antonio? So anything that I think is interesting, I'm going to underline. Okay? San Antonio is the 7th largest city in the United States, but many don't know the history. History usually means I'm going to underline everything with a date. So, in 1691, a group of Spanish explorers happened upon a river in a Native American settlement in what is now the state of Texas. Okay. They named it San Antonio. So, who named it? Spanish explorers. So, this is kind of a choppy way to underline, but a group of Spanish explorers named it San Antonio because of the date. It was on June 13th, which they considered the Feast of St. Anthony. That is an important fact that I didn't know. Soon the river became home to a fort, a mission, a community, all of which they called San Antonio de los Andes. For the next 100 years, San Antonio was under Spanish control. Okay, that's important. I didn't know that. And in the early 1800s, they turned it into the Alamo. Many of you have probably heard about that. Texans took control of that fort, so not Spanish, Texans. Shortly after, General Santa Anna arrived with an army that was 2,000 strong. Fewer than 200 soldiers were gathered, but they held off the army for 13 days. That's really important. There are 200 soldiers and volunteers in the Alamo, and they still held off an army of 2,000 men. And Texas declared independence from Mexico and became a state. That's going to be important too. San Antonio existed long before it became a U.S. state. Actually, it was owned by Spain, then Texas, then U.S. Okay? The topic of the account is San Antonio, but what is the author saying about San Antonio? What exactly do they want you to know about San Antonio? So I'm just looking back and thinking, what do I want to say about San Antonio? So what happened to San Antonio depends on what we think is going to be most important here. So San Antonio, mostly it has a San Antonio history. What do we want to say about San Antonio's history? San Antonio's history took many twists and turns. Was unpredictable and took many twists and turns. It's like our central idea based on these supporting details that we know. Okay? What supporting details do they use? Okay, so that's like kind of our examples. So examples of how the history was unpredictable. So the San Antonio was controlled by Spain, then Texas, and then became part of the United States when Texas did. Right? That's unpredictable and taking many twists and turns. Okay? Signal words such as like, now, soon, and for the next 100 years help you see how supporting details are connected. So really, how are they connected? How do all these details relate to one another? Well, supporting details connect to one thing. They connect to the central idea. So, the details of San Antonio's history. I'm going to say details and facts because this is history. The detail and facts of San Antonio's history help to show how unpredictable and interesting San Antonio's history is. Right? We're connecting the details to the central idea, and our central idea was that San Antonio's history was unpredictable and took many twists and turns. We're going to keep reading about San Antonio, and they want us to underline details about the central idea. And the central idea here is going to be different because they're saying what's the central idea in the final paragraph. Okay? San Antonio prospered after the Civil War, and they had the first railway. So it's important to know that they prospered, so I am going to underline that. And the first railway. First railway. So it's like the central idea, they prospered. What's an example? Well, they have the first railway. By 1900, 5 railways served San Antonio, then the largest Texas city. So it used to be the largest Texas city. That's important. Largest city of Texas. Today, San Antonio thrives. Okay, so this is not the history, this is present time. It's home to 5 military bases, 1 million people, Market Square, the largest Mexican market outside of Mexico, and San Antonio is a lively city with a rich and memorable history. I think that sums it up very nicely because it's their history and now. So it's still a lively city that's rich and has a memorable history. Which sentence best states? All right. The central idea. After the Civil War, it prospered. Is that central? Remember, our idea is about how it has this really cool, interesting history. So this is a supporting detail. They're trying to trick us. No supporting details. We want central idea. San Antonio is famous because of the Alamo. That is a detail. That's not about how amazing the history is. Market Square is a large Mexican marketplace in San Antonio is a detail about a market square. That's not even really about San Antonio. San Antonio is a thriving city with a fascinating history. Absolutely. That's the one sentence that talks about the fascinating, interesting history. Okay? Look back at the answer you chose above. How is it supported by each paragraph? Okay? So, the central idea that San Antonio is thriving is shown through many ways, right? we're just like introducing. We're going to tell you different ways that it's interesting. So, it's named after St. Anthony, Spanish control, and had the Alamo. Okay. The first detail is that it was named after St. Anthony. The second support detail is that the second one was that it was taken over by Spain. The third detail is that it had the Alamo, which 200 men fought for against 2,000 men. Lastly, it has, so remember the Alamo, so then it became, lastly it had the first, I'm going to say the first rail. So these all show that San Antonio has a rich, thriving history. Remember, that was our central idea. We're reminding the reader, like, hey, we know our central ideas, and we're giving you details, and we're showing how it connects. Okay, how is it supported? That's how it's supported. Okay, so our next one, this is the finish of this part, and then we're going to go on to the next video to look at New York City.